You're watching Minnesota Vikings Now by Chat Sports, and our bosses don't think we can get to 200 likes on this video. Let's prove them wrong. If you love the Vikings and you want to stick it to our bosses a little bit, who one of them's a Lions fan, like the video right now. Tom Downey here once again for Minnesota Vikings Now. We've got some overreactions and some rumors coming out of the Vikings' rather disappointing loss against the Detroit Lions. You were that close to clinching a playoff spot and the division crown, and now it must wait at least one more week as the Lions take it to Minnesota 34-23. If I had told you Kirk Cousins is 31 of 41 for 425, you would have said, we won. But that was not what ended up happening, as Jared Goff was 27 of 39 for 330 and 3 scores. The ground game was non-existent for Minnesota, and probably in part because of the offensive line issues there. But the Lions' offense, man, they were good. 330 passing yards, 134 on the ground, 464 totals, awesome production, 34 points. You're going to win most games dropping 34, and they were 7 of 15 on third downs. And this is a troubling trend we've talked about many times before, and we're going to do it again. The not great quarterbacks going up against the Minnesota Vikings are putting up big-time numbers. Mac Jones had his best game of the year, 28 of 39 for 382 and a score. Mike White was 57 for 369. Those were wins for the Vikings, as narrow as they were. Jared Goff was not Jared Goof. He was Jared Good in that game. 27 of 39 for 333 scores. That's a lot of big passing plays allowed, and it's really challenging to win football games. Even the Vikings have done it 2-1 when your passing defense is getting cooked. The explosive plays this team has allowed to the air, it's a massive red flag. Updated defensive stats entering Monday Night Football. Dead last in yards per game, in passing yards, league average in rushing yards, below average in points per game. They've had a lot of turnovers, which have helped, but their 15th and third down percentage, you're not going to win a lot of football games, and the Vikings have found a way to do it, but you're not normally going to do that when your defense is bottom 10 defense. That's why Vegas doesn't believe in Minnesota. That's why nobody outside of the Vikings believes in them as a serious playoff threat. So what do you do to make the change, right? Ed Donatell's had a rough go as his first year as the DC. I know there are many Vikings fans out there saying, how about Mike Pettine? You can try it, I guess. He's currently the assistant head coach. He had a very long track record. I would be pretty shocked if you made a DC change mid-year when you're going to clinch the division for the first time in a couple years. But something has to change, and it can't really get any worse. Especially if things don't change, you're gonna be one and done. A team like the Cowboys, the Giants, whoever it is, will end up upsetting you at home in the playoffs. You can't have that. Now, I don't know if Mike Pettine's the answer because, he hasn't been that great before, but something's got to get figured out with Ed Donatell and this Vikings defense. It's simply not good enough right now. So, pin comment on today's show. Should the Vikings fire Ed Donatell if nothing changes? Y for yes, N for no. Head down to that pinned comment, especially if the ad break comes here on YouTube, and let me know. Let's hit some true overreactions here. Overreaction number 1, Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the NFL. Look, you can make arguments still for Devontae Adams, for Jamar Chase even, but you make a hell of a one for Justin Jefferson as well. He has been insane in almost every game. There are receivers who won't go for 220 yards this season, and JJ did that in one game. 15 targets, 11 receptions, 223 yards, 0 touchdowns. But, you're dropping 223. That's always impressive there. You make an argument for, a Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, too. But Justin Jefferson's already at the 1,500-yard mark, 1,500, at 40 more yards than Tyreek Hill, whose fumble recovery, of course, does not count there. Jefferson has been the Vikings MVP this year. He has been their best player on either side of the football, and the offense looks so much different if they didn't have Jefferson out there. So our next question, because Jefferson's the obvious answer, not including Justin Jefferson, who do you think has been the Vikings MVP this season? Is it Kirk Cousins? Not naming Justin Jefferson. Who is it? Let me know in the comments section. Overreaction number 2. Time to panic? I can't get on board yet. I think it's totally reasonable, understandable to have some concerns. They're pretty much all valid. Just have to show talking about the defense, right? But you're still going to be a playoff team. So you have a lot of things in your favor. I'm not panicking. I'd be panicking if they were 5-win team, but they're on the verge of being in great shape. Here's what Kevin O'Connell had to say. If we want to earn the right to punch our tickets into the playoffs, we sure better have to have a playoff-worthy type performance, which I think we did not overall as a football team do today. That's always that falls on me, and I can do a lot of things better, myself, our coaching staff. And then we'll just go back to work and clean up some of the execution and be ready to be at our best. The Vikings right now, because of the division advantage, are probably not going to finish worse than the 3 seed in the division or in the playoff picture. You got to figure Eagles or Cowboys. Probably Eagles get that number 1 seed. The Niners might be able to catch Minnesota, which would then drop the Vikings down to the 3 seed, but they'll play the Commanders, Giants, or Seattle. Probably not Minnesota, but they're not that far out of it there. So this is a playoff team. That's what they are. Whether it's been a lot of close wins, I know. Hey, you're winning the close games, right? This is a playoff caliber football team. They will win the division, so I'm not panicking quite yet. If they were 5-8, if they had the Packers here, and Cousins played like Aaron Rodgers did, yeah, we'd probably be panicking a little bit. But they're not. They're a playoff team. Reasonable to want more to actually win a playoff game. But year 1 of Kevin O'Connell, man, it's pretty good so far. Today's show is made possible by our sportsbook partner, BetUS. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code CHAT125. $100 down. Going to get you a 125% deposit bonus for free. After being underdogs last week, the Vikings are favorites against Indy. The early line, 4.5 points. Indy's just not that good. You can bet on Minnesota, probably to win. I'm not doing any more covers for Minnesota. They've had too many close games. But let me know if you want to go do it. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code CHAT125. Check it out. $100 down minimum to get that 125% deposit bonus. Some bookends here. The defense is the Achilles heel. Hell yeah, it is. Your offense is doing its job. I like what Kevin O'Connell has done, despite this team still not really playing an entire 4 quarters or even 3 quarters, I'd say, of football. The Vikings are a good football team. But if that defense doesn't get something figured out, it's going to hold them back when it matters the most in the postseason. Some guys who I think have to step up, and the injuries have been kind of a part of this too, looking at Harrison Smith. Your edge rushers, Danielle Hunter, Zadarius Smith. Smith started the year hot. He's cooled off since then. He's got to step up. Eric Kendricks, your linebacker, especially against the run. They've been fighting against the run. Got to step up. Harrison Smith getting paid a lot of money to be a dynamic safety. I know he's older, a bit banged up. Got to emerge. And any cornerback besides Patrick Peterson. That's been the big issue, right? I know it's bend but don't break, quarters, covers, 6 zone defense. Like, someone's got to step up in that secondary. How about Andrew Booth? Well, he's hurt, right? So you got to have somebody emerge at that number 2 corner spot. Cam Dantzler all the way. I know there have been injuries. The defense has to do more. It's not just a player thing, not just a coaching thing. When you've got a bottom 10 defense, it's normally a little bit of both. Maybe Ed Donatell's not maximizing his players, calling a great game. The guys aren't making enough plays either in terms of just getting stops before you get to the red zone or via takeaways, because takeaways can be fluky and inconsistent. Players on that Vikings defense and the coaches have got to get things figured out. Danielle Hunter, I know, had a tough matchup against the very good Lions offensive line. 2 pressures in the entire game. Look, man, Hunter is a dynamic football player who's been a double-digit sack guy when healthy. I haven't seen that guy consistently enough this year. Now, scheme change, I know, maybe a factor in there. He's got to show up more. And I get, hey, Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker, I get it. Great offensive lineman, I know. You need Hunter to do more. And frankly, maybe your scheme and your coaching staff isn't devising up enough ways to get Hunter free. Maybe do even more stunts in obvious passing downs. I think that might benefit Hunter and Smith, since Smith can kind of move around the formation on defense a little bit there. But you make the change to the 3-4 scheme. Shouldn't matter that much, but the big obvious change outside of the injuries in the past for Hunter this year, maybe it's a problem. So how big of an impact is this 3-4 defensive front in base packages, since you're in nickel most of the time anyway? How big of an issue is that for Hunter? Scale it for me from 1 to 10 in the comments section. By the way, if you made it to the end of the video, you're a real one. Thank you very much. Head down to the comments section and type in real one for a shout out, or at least some love in the comments section from our Vikings fan, producer Patrick.